First on film and entertainment, Alex first with you, and a couple of recalcitrants. The only live human being other than myself that, adds a bit of sanity is not here this weekend. He's gone AWOL. So we've got Jaqui Hammerton and we've got Peter Krause. Gentlemen, lady, how the hell are you? Both well? Jacqui?
Good morning, all good, thank you.
Fantastic. Now, I'm going to get a hard time, aren't I? I'm going to, all my sort of deliriously happy reviews of shows are going to be brought down to earth with your difficulties. Is that what I'm expecting, Peter Krause?
You'll be getting honest reviews.
Yes. I cannot wait, Jacqui, to hear your view of one of the amazing films of the year, which I implored you, encouraged you, berated you to go along and see. In fact, I think we should start there. I think we should start with a bit of substance, shouldn't we, Jacqui? Wouldn't that be good, eh?
Go for it, Alex.
Thank you very much. Now, it is a very long film. It could have been shortened. I do accept that. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. Firstly, without going into any detail, do you think it should have been shorter, Peter Krause?
To some extent, yes. But
good.
We
Yes,
need to discuss it.
A yes is enough. Right. Jacqui?
We haven't actually correctly given it a proper title yet, so we're talking about the film called The Substance.
I said, I called it The
Yes,
Substance.
but you said it in an offhand way. So I'm saying the film is called The Substance. And what was the question? Is it too long?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Okay.
30 minutes. It's 30 minutes and 300 litres of fake blood too long.
Right. Okay. So I'm grateful that you're not saying the whole thing should have been 30 minutes. That in itself, at least we're moving in the right direction. Okay. So here's the question that is asked in The Substance. What price fame? Okay. It's at the heart of one of the most intense and, I thought, remarkable films of the year. And it's about physical beauty, adoration, self-love and self-loathing. And it concerns the lengths to which one will go to remain relevant. So here we have Elizabeth Sparkle. That's the character name, played by Demi Moore, who makes an amazing return to the limelight in this particular movie. And Elizabeth Sparkle used to be a movie star before transitioning to hosting a successful morning workout show on television. So what was the guy's name that we grew up watching?
Simmons.
Simmons, thank you very much indeed. Right, it's kind of that thing, but it's a female in tights type production with a couple of others. She's now middle-aged, and her ugly-natured, very ugly-natured, self-centered, self-serving boss, who's named Harvey, played by Dennis Quaid, decides that she's dead weight, that her time's up. So he basically gives her the heave-ho. She's driving home with the torment associated with that decision reverberating in her mind, and she's involved in a car accident. She has scans. They show no broken bones, but she breaks down in tears. And as she leaves, she's handed a folded piece of paper by one of the medicos, which contains a USB drive directing her to what is called The Substance. Now, what is it? Well, it's a cell-replicating black market drug that offers the promise of a better version of yourself. So here we have Sparkle, who's isolated with no immediate prospects, and she finds it galling that Harvey has placed an ad for an 18 to 30-year-old to replace her. So she throws caution to the wind. She makes a call on The Substance, namely that she'll give it a go. A mysterious male voice, when she phones the number, directs her to a rundown, graffiti-riddled backwater. It's there that she picks up a cardboard box containing the necessary ingredients that will allegedly restore her youth. The instructions are strict. They need to be followed to the letter. They involve a single-use injected activator, followed by a stabilizer and a series of food pouches. So it is that Sparkle injects herself, and after her body contorts and falls limp, she quote-unquote births her newer, younger, prettier self. Bizarre though this process is, that's how the perfectly proportioned and turned out Sue, played by Margaret Qualley, emerges. And of course, she's just what Harvey, the television producer, is looking for. She's hired to front a new workout show, and viewer numbers skyrocket. Critically important with the substance, though, is that Sue and Elizabeth, who are two halves of a whole, switch back and forth every 7 days. If they do not do so, it's going to have dire, irreversible consequences. Now, be that as it may, Sue quickly gets caught up in her own self-importance. Elizabeth becomes enraged. As I said, they are the same person in what becomes a fight to the death. So, the substance is an incendiary piece of work, a pointed commentary on men, women, societal expectations, and the obsession that we have with physical beauty. The writer and director is Coralie Fargate, who did Revenge, and in this movie, she continues to push the envelope throughout. And when you think you've had enough, she does it again, and then again, and again, and again. Of course, that's the whole point, to shine a bright light on the saturated world in which we live, where body image is everything. And it marks a superb return, as I said at the outset, for Demi Moore, who's outstanding in a chilling portrayal of this fallen diva who craves more. And Elizabeth's alter ego is really well captured by Margaret Qualley, who exudes entitlement. Now, it's a brilliant portrayal, obnoxious narcissism. They're the hallmarks of Quaid's representation of the television mover and shaker, the man pulling all the strings. I said at the outset how ugly that characterization is. The cinematographer Benjamin Kraken, who did Promising Young Woman, a great movie, has vividly captured the contrast between shine and grunge, and he catapults us into the heart of darkness, desperation, and despair. It's horrifying, but oh so potent. It's dramatic, it's traumatic cinema at its best, and it's not for the faint-hearted. It holds a mirror up to society, and the image one glances is deeply disturbing. And I say that notwithstanding that the movie is a tad long, but Fargate as a filmmaker, in my mind, has established herself as one of renown. This is something special. It is called The Substance. Peter Krause, what do you think?
Yes, I'm not going to take the substance. It's okay. Look,
why not? You can adore yourself. I mean, you're about 1,343 years old now. It'll bring you back to your prime in your 18 to 20s.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, I was there at the launch. But anyway, look, this is an R-rated film for good reason. And
it's MA. Isn't it MA?
No, it's R.
Yes, it's R.
Oh, wow. Yes. Okay.
Yep, 18 plus. 18 plus.
I looked it up earlier and I thought it was MA, so I must have been wrong. For the what? No, it's no. What was that? Sorry, the one and only time in my life, so it's okay.
You need to take the substance to get.
I do.
Back.
I do.
Yeah. Look, this is an interesting film to watch because it has twists and turns. In many cases, it's better not to know in advance where the story is going. I didn't know where this film was headed, and the way you've described it perhaps is there are a few spoilers there that I think audiences would want to appreciate as they are watching the film. There is the French filmmaker Coralie Fargate has fashioned a superb film. However, I agree that it does go on a little bit too long. I can see where the inspirations are coming from. Everything from Alien to Carrie to other body horror films that I've seen at Monsterfest and at various other places. But the whole idea is that men in particular see women in terms of their external beauty, and as soon as that external beauty dissipates, then they are replaceable. And that's, I suppose, the message of this film. It's interesting also to note that Dennis Quaid has an appearance in the film, which is interesting to say the least. And the special effects and the last third of the film are incredibly over the top. To some extent, for me, too far over the top. I thought it was.
I expect you to say that, Peter. And this is, Peter, I've discussed this with a number of people prior to being on air with you, special individuals today, and this is the common remark. But you think about why. You think about the purpose of the whole movie, and to me, it goes to that very essence. That's the reason that it needed to do it that way. You disagree?
Well, I think it made its point about 2/3 into the film, and I think it was just over the top after that. It was repetitive, and I think Coralie could have, even though she was also the editor of the film, she could perhaps have cut back a little bit on that, and so that the message was clear without having to become repetitive. Nevertheless, it's a really good film because it goes in directions that you don't necessarily expect. And yes, Demi Moore is superb. Margaret Qualley is very good. But it's better not to know too much in advance when you go and see the film, because it will really startle you in many respects. The film doesn't have a huge amount of dialogue, but visually is quite stunning, as is the sound effects, which are superb, and the use of discordant music, etc. It's there's a lot to admire in this R-rated film, even though it's not a perfect film overall.
Jacqui, I'll be really interested to hear your view, because I knew that this is going to sort of, what's the expression about moving your cogs? I'm sure it did that. Tell me.
Yes, you're interested to hear what I'm going to say because I'm right.
So, Jack, hang on, let's get something clear. I don't have you on this show for you to be right. Okay? I mean, that's so far removed from where you're at that it doesn't matter, but I value your opinion. There you go. Does that sound...
my pleasure. Thank you, Alex.
Is that okay? Disingenuous? It's meant to. Yeah. Go on, keep going.
Okay, the film, The Substance. There are things I agree and disagree about what each of you has just said. Peter, I agree that...
Pardon me, I genuinely apologise for interrupting you, because I actually do value what you have to say. Did you or did you not, in a word, did you like it or not? Yes or no?
Okay. I can't answer that with a yes or no, because I see the film as a film of two parts.
Mm-hmm.
There's the plot of it and the way it starts out and the way the story progresses. And then in the final third, it actually descends into a splatter flick. Peter, I think you said a little bit over the top. I thought it was way beyond what was necessary, and it actually started to destroy all the good stuff at the start of the film. So loved the first half, shall we say, and then the final third to quarter, or maybe just the final quarter, the film lost me. And so you might say you don't want to know too much about the film before you go there, and I agree with that with all films, really. But with this, I think the R rating, there's a reason to warn people that if they can't handle this kind of film, don't see it. It's gory, it's a splatter flick, but worse than that, it's got a lot of medical type invasive procedures. And that is wonderfully, but also horribly exaggerated by the director and the sound effects. The squelching sounds just were turning my stomach. And not just the medical procedures that the women were doing with each other, but also, I might say, Dennis Quaid's, that scene where he's eating the prawns. Do you remember that? I just, like,
I
it was
certainly do.
deliberately designed to turn your stomach, but oh my God, it was in massive close-up and huge sounds of him eating and inside the mouth, and I just couldn't do that. Look, everything you say about...
Jacqui, wasn't that brilliant? Wasn't that... I just thought, oh, what a master.
Totally. But then that was in the first half of the film, and everything about the first half of the film was just amazing.
You know what?
Amazing.
What you are going to do for me today? You're going to give me a score for the first, well, I think it's 2/3 of the film, and then you'll give me a mark for the last third, because that'll be a fail, won't it, Jacqui?
No, and stop predicting.
Okay, I'm trying to. I'm trying. You're never.
What is interesting about the film is the story. I don't know how novel the story is, or whether it draws on other, you do say aliens. Certainly I could see that, even though I've never seen an alien film all the way through, because I actually can't. But it draws on really important issues that are currently there are a lot of isms going on at the moment. And ageism is a big one that isn't dealt with a lot in cinema, I think. And this is a fantastic vehicle for the, raising the subject of ageism, along with, and that's all to do with body image. And in this film, it also draws in, beauty, physical beauty and youth, and the selfishness of youth. Oh my God, did we struggle with some of what was going on in this film? But as for the way the film itself is put together, the acting, it's the best thing Demi Moore's ever done. And the cast led the three leads in the cast are just fantastic. But as I say, right at the start, could have cut 30 minutes and 300 litres of that fake blood, and I would have been a lot happier with it.
Okay. So, I mean, are you pleased you've seen it?
Yes, because I survived.
No. Okay. Is it a film that...
But it also, there's also something about this film that genuinely made me sad, because it really...
was.
I'm the same age. Oh no, I'm actually a little bit older than Demi Moore. She's 61. And it actually made me sad that we reach this age, and it's actually a thing, But it always has been. I don't think ageism is a new thing. I mean, in some cultures, there's great, more respect for the senior generations. But physical beauty, it's always been a thing. Even back in the 17th century, when they painted beautiful women who were larger in body, that was their idea of physical beauty. But there's always been a difference in presentation of physical beauty between men and women, and how we respond to that.
Yes, and of course that's the whole point of making this film by I'm presuming she identifies as a woman. Maybe I shouldn't presume, but regardless, that's what makes this so poignant and powerful. And
I don't think the gender of the director matters at all. I think it's
it's interesting you say that. To me, it does, because it's being made by a person who, and you've said that the judgments are different. So I just think it cuts to the quick. It really gets cut through, even more so because it's been made by someone who is of one particular sex. And I
don't agree, but you're welcome to have your opinion.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Look, I think it'd be powerful regardless, but I think it adds extra weight, because I mean, you hear about this more and more, and so we should, that women in particular are judged so often by incredibly ridiculous beauty standards, and yet I suppose my question, which is probably a cheeky one, but is that a thing that we've been taught as men, or is that in our DNA, which doesn't make it any more excusable? But I don't know the answer to that. But it's funny, and I've said this to you before, Jacqui, and you'll have a different opinion, I'm sure, but it's an important topic to discuss. My wife, when she walks along and, she's of similar age, and this still happens, and I'm not kidding, and she's wolf whistled at, she sees it as a badge of honour. And I mean that, right? And she really likes it. And she always comes home and tells me, and we make a joke about it, etc. And she genuinely likes it. Now, there are a lot of others who would be deeply offended by that today. And it's sort of unacceptable, right, in modern standards. So how do you read that? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a woman, so I can't interpret that. But you give me your take on what I've just said.
Oh, well, there's different levels, but, it's one could say that that's at the very lowest level of physical appreciation from a distance, and then you go up all the levels to being a sexual predator. Mm-hmm. It's that's where it lands. So I can't comment on your own personal experience there.
I mean, look, I know that often I talk about things, and I encourage you to as well, because I think one of the beauties of movies or shows or events or exhibitions is they transport you into places that perhaps you wouldn't normally talk about, or you go to areas that you know nothing about. And I love the fact that sparks conversation. So,
well, Alex, it boils down to, for me, and you and I have discussed this ourselves too. Yes. And I've always said to you, it boils down for me to one word: respect. And that's respect for the person. Yes. So if someone's got this attitude to a woman and it's not respectful, well, I'm sorry, but we're now standing up to say that's not on.
Yes, and so we should be. And look, just before if people are listening to this for the first time, they might think, oh my golly, what am I doing to poor Jacqui and Peter? I mean, basically, I'd like to think we're...
I wonder that too.
Alex. Yeah, I wonder that too. Stop it. We'll go blind. No, but we are basically friends. We've known each other, and, that goes for Peter as well. We've known each other for the best part of 30 to 40 years. So, we take the P1SS often, but in case you think that this is, a personal attack on people, I'd like to think it's not, even though we often have a lend of one another. And even though, and Peter, you're the worst at this, you don't care about football. Oh my golly. And Jacqui, not with you. That is deeply offensive to me. You know that. Right, now we can move on. Okay. So...
Just on what you're saying there, Alex, just think about the wolf whistling if it's reversed. Always think of the reverse situation. If a woman wolf whistled a man, would that be acceptable?
No, Peter, it's not the same. Not the same.
Go on, keep going. I agree with you, Jacqui, but explain from your perspective.
Oh, from my perspective?
Yes.
Look, women have been subjugated since the first woman ever appeared by men. And, this is a whole new story coming out now. And subjugation also comes into the way that, someone reacts to you in the street. It's, been with employment, it's been with being in the home, it's been with domestic violence, it's been with physical domination.
So, okay, I want to go back in time a little bit. Benny Hill we all grew up with, and it was sort of a rite of passage almost. Now you've got to sort of demean what went on, or you can't read an Eden Blyton novel, or whatever, those sorts of things. Now, so where do we rewrite history? Where do we say, well, that was totally unacceptable? Well,
you're not rewriting history. You're just injecting the word respect into the way we go forward. But I do apologise. I did actually interrupt Peter then, and I didn't let him finish what he was saying.
I'm going to come back to Benny Hill, but Peter, keep going, please.
Don't call me Benny Hill. Anyway, you'll be chasing me around the studio in a moment.
With certain music too, yes.
Yes, exactly. Look, I think it's a social context issue as well. I mean, what we regard today as being acceptable or not acceptable obviously was quite different 50, 60 years ago. And I agree with you, Jacqui. It's always a time period situation where women in particular have been subject to subjugation. It's been less about women subjugating men. But nevertheless, it's a difficult situation to discuss because it's all about upbringing, it's parenting, it's about social context, it's about the advertisements that we see on television that propagate, for example, some of this attitude. It's about what happens in schools and how it's treated. There's so many issues and so many ways of looking at this and how to deal with it. And you're also right, Alex, in saying that we can't just negate the past and history and change it.
I think, Peter, you've made a really important point here. The way that you are brought up by your parents in terms of respect, and that's your word, Jacqui, and I totally agree with it, and also what's taught in schools, because it forms the foundation of what will follow. So if you set the right example, I'd like to think that's going to have a positive effect. And we're talking about it more, which is really important. Having said all of that, I mean, maybe we were wrongly innocent or whatever, but there was a lot of joy that Benny Hill brought to households. That's the reason I've referenced that. And the fact that I grew up with the Secret Seven and the Famous Five, and at the time I saw nothing wrong with that. So, what do you say about that, Jack?
Alex, I suppose you think it was okay to that if a woman was accused of being a witch back in the 16th century, that if she didn't drown, it was okay to burn her at the stake. I mean, we're talking now with the benefit of hindsight.
No,
you thought Benny Hill was funny. Well, I'm sorry, but that's just not on now. It was.
No, I agree.
It's simply not appropriate to even.
But hang on, that's exactly what I'm saying. That maybe I was naive or innocent or whatever, but
No, you weren't naive and innocent. You were wrong. And and the way that women have been treated has been wrong. And it's not just family and schools. It's also the law. The law allowed it. Government allowed it. In Afghanistan now, what's happening with women there? It's
shocking.
It's being allowed, not by families and schools.
No, but I mean, the Afghanistan situation is appalling. I'm not advocating. The funny thing is, I've always, and this is in our private conversations too, Jacqui, I've always thought much more of women than I have thought of men. And
yes, I agree. I know you do.
I do. So, in other words, I'm saying that our base instincts as men are often Neanderthal, and that needs to change. That needs to be the behaviour that
that is changing. That is changing,
right. And that's why I'm so pleased that it's changing. So it's very difficult, because the moment you open your mouth as a male about this, and you have any views that may be contrary to the acceptable views today, you're howled down. And I simply want to.
I don't agree. I think you're mixing with the wrong people if you're being howled down, Alex.
No, I'm saying that. I mean, I'd like to think I was always respectful of women and the role that they played in society, because I've always thought so much of women. But it's interesting how there has been a quantum shift, as there needed to be. The MeToo movement has had a huge impact, as it should, and there's so much that's going on. I mean, the latest allegations against a well-known music star in the United States that have emerged over the last few days, it's chilling and it's horrifying.
And yet, one woman a week is dying in Australia, being killed by a partner. And you know what they want to do? They want to set up safe homes for women, but they're not changing men's behaviour.
It's not happening quickly enough, because it needs
Absolutely not.
No, fair enough. All right, so let's now go back to the movie and let's talk about a score out of 10. And Jacqui, I will ask you to divide it, because I think that this is one of those movies that I understand. So let's start with you, Peter. Are you going to give a whole score, or are you going to give a first 2/3 and why don't you do the same? First 2/3 and last third. Go on.
No, I review a whole film. Okay. I don't like to segment a film.
I didn't for this one, but there you go. I'll do the whole film because I enjoyed it from start to finish. No, enjoy is the wrong word. I appreciated what the director was doing.
Right.
So, right.
Okay. That's fair enough. I just wanted to mention one thing. At the start of the film with Demi Moore on that exercise video, I thought immediately that they were replicating the Jane Fonda exercise films or videos that she was part of. And I thought, is this an homage to Jane Fonda? And then when we have the character of Sue, it immediately reminded me, and I know this dates me, of Sue Becker. I don't know if you remember her when she used to on television have those exercise videos and those
no,
those
I can't. Jacqui, do you know Sue Becker?
No, don't.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that okay. Well,
sorry. Was that in the 17th century, Peter? I
absolutely. I was there when she was launched.
Okay. Good.
Okay. A score for The Substance, 7 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jacqui, are you splitting it 2/3, 1/3, or not?
I was just going to say, comment on what Peter just said. Then I was really interested in the shift from I thought the first part with Demi Moore was the exercise and health regime of the aerobics class she was taking, and then when Sue, the younger version of herself, was doing the videos, it was just full on sexualized.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the big divide, and that showed up in the film. And how wonderful that this film actually has brought up discussions such as this. However, it was the first half of the film that brings up the discussion, and the final bit just could have just lost. I just gave it a single score, 6.5 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10.
Okay, so having heard that, what do you think I'm going to give it, Jacqui?
Probably an 8 to an 8.5.
Peter, what do you think I'm giving?
Yeah, you'll probably give it an 8.
8.5. Great movie. Must be seen.
With a warning of being R-rated.
Yes, again, yeah, absolutely. You're moving into territory that is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I accept it, but it's a movie that should be seen for the reasons
that... It doesn't need to be your cup of tea. It's just you need a strong stomach, okay?
Yes, you do. Okay. And a Bex and a lie down. Thank you very much. Okay, having seen it. All right. Well, okay, you are on J88FM M. Now, I updated my membership this week. I paid my $54, so can others who are interested in this radio station. Please, we need your support. That's what community radio is all about. Just go to j-air.com.au and you can become a member and listen to not just us, but hopefully some healthy and intelligent programming 24/7 and some pretty good music as well. On that note, we should be talking about a movie that really surprised me in terms of how charming it was. And it's I won't call this a children's feature. I'll call this a family movie of the year. The Wild Robot. Oh my golly, what a film. Now, you can correct me, both of you. It is PG rated and it runs for 102 minutes. Any disagreement there? No. Okay. So take a New York Times bestseller, turn it into this charming family film, piece of cake. Hardly. And yet that is the outcome of the delightful experience that is the cinematic take on The Wild Robot. And the bot is named ROSM Unit 7134. ROSM spelled ROZZUM. And ROSM has been taught to complete tasks. She, I think it is shipwrecked. I don't know whether it's a she or a he, but we'll call it a she. She is shipwrecked on an uninhabited island and is awakened, in inverted commas, by animal activity. Now, Roz looks out for somebody to ask her, looks out for somebody to ask her to do something. And instead, all of the animals on the island, and there's a veritable Noah's Ark, run scared and regard the robot as a freak. Now, when Unit 7134 fails to find a master, again in inverted commas, she's obliged to return home for reassignment. But that too proves problematic. In a wild chase to escape a formidable grizzly bear named Thorn, Roz has an accident from which she emerges literally holding a baby. And in this case, that's an egg, being tracked by a wily fox named Fink, who'd love nothing more than to devour said egg. But Roz keeps it safe and sees it hatch. Inside is an orphaned gosling, the runt of the litter, named Brightbill, who believes Roz is her mother. And so it is that Roz is tasked with raising her. No easy feat for a machine, not programmed to handle such things. With unlikely assistance from Fink, remember Fink is the wily fox, Roz tentatively begins the task, making several missteps along the way. She hits a major roadblock when Brightbill discovers what happened to the rest of her family. Roz can only hope that with her good heart, she'll find favour again with Brightbill and break down the barriers that exist for both Brightbill and herself. So I reckon this is the finest and best animated feature I've seen in quite some time. It has such warmth, it's got great humour and heart, and above all, it's fun. But what shouldn't be overlooked is that it contains a fair share of drama as well. I thought the animation was magnificent. I found it so easy to connect with and relate to the characters. Credit to all the artists associated with the production. Of course, it all starts with a writing, which I found it was really top shelf. It's the characters' personalities that elevate the spectacle, and here we come to the voice talent, which brings that to the fore. Right, the personality of the characters is very much about the talent. Lupita Nyong'o presents Roz as being on a steep learning curve that steps far outside the domain of a traditional bot, and basically she goes rogue. Pedro Pascal ensures that the lonely Fink develops other than a mercenary side. As Mother Possum Pinktail, Catherine O'Hara, who was in Beetlejuice, is the ultimate pragmatist. Kit Connor, sees Brightbill overcome huge adversity to find her own voice. And you've got Mark Hamill from Star Wars, powerful as the island's apex predator, Thorn. There's a fierce determination about Matt Berry as a grumpy and reclusive beaver. Loved the beaver. Ving Rhames takes command as a flight instructor named Thunderbolt, who's a predatory falcon in this movie, The Wild Robot. And there are words of wisdom from the oldest and wisest of the geese, named Longneck, the voice of a very distinctive Bill Nye. You always know it's Bill whenever his voice is heard or when he appears in a picture. And the illustrated novel, The Wild Robot, was originally by Peter Brown, published in 2016, became a huge hit. The movie adaptation deserves to as well. There's so much to it, so many adventures to be had, not a dull moment. I thought The Wild Robot was a cracker. What did you think, Jack?
Oh, yes, I like The Wild Robot, Alex. Lots of humour and lots of action, plenty to keep the children and adults occupied and entertained. As you said, very good writing, lots of nice themes in there of belonging and family and learning to get along and working as a team, and a few slightly rawer themes too of the instincts of natural predators. They certainly didn't shy away from
who
eats who. And if we're talking of natural instincts, there's the maternal instinct that Roz the robot develops, if you like. She wants to just serve to start with, as she is a robot, but she actually becomes a softer character and a warmer character as she develops a bond with the little gosling. And, that's the maternal instinct kicking in there. Yes, I mean, the animation was just spectacular. It's just beautiful work. The animation through water and through air and flight and
that nest. The nest of the beautiful green grass.
Mm.
I mean, that was just extraordinary. It was like a cloud. I just thought, Jacqui, I just don't know how they do it, quite frankly. I was mesmerised. I agree with you.
But I did find it, even though the dialogue is it's great. It's very entertaining. It's actually quite sharp. Mm-hmm. I did find it kept throwing out these kind of platitudes all these kind of smooth lines about maybe because that brought it down to the kid level. I didn't think they always needed to say that. They were showing it anyway. So, and the second but, but funnily enough, as for the substance, the end of the film becomes a Hollywood shoot-'em-up, violent, guns blazing, robotic characters trying to do evil. And it just changed the whole
tenor,
the whole feeling, the whole tenor. And I just didn't think it needed that. It could have been done in a slightly different way. I just thought it was
How would you have done it? How would you have done it?
I don't know how I would have done it. I'm not the filmmaker, really. But to me, it just this shift at the end just kind of brought a kind of a nasty taste to it. And I just wanted it to be the beautiful thing it started off for the first 2/3 of the film.
Wow, so we've had two movies that you like the first 2/3 and not the last third. All right, what about you, Peter? Did you appreciate the ending? Let's start there.
Yeah, actually, I did, because I thought it was an interesting approach to robots or artificial intelligence dealing with sentient beings, and how the two would, in animated form, of course, and how the two would interact. And I thought that confrontation or that situation was an interesting one, which kids might want to then discuss after viewing the film. And this whole notion of, can artificial intelligence help us or hinder us? And I think in animated form, because of the good writing in this animation from DreamWorks, worked so well for me. It was quite effective. I was worried that it might get a little bit too sentimental, but it just held back from doing that, and in fact told a good story. In fact, it matched for me the film Robot Dreams, which was another superb film about a robot, although obviously a different story, different approach, but nevertheless had a message to say about the way robots can interact with humans or with sentient beings. Anyway,
we'll start with Will Smith. What was the movie that he made about robots? Oh, I've gone blank on its name. Anyway, keep going.
Not I Am Legend or something like that.
I'll let you keep talking among yourselves.
Yeah. Anyway, that's okay. Anyway, no, I really liked Wild Robot. Great voice cast, as always. Although for me, the voice cast is secondary to the writing. And it's the writing that really gets you in. And the animation is just superbly controlled. I think what they're developing in the technical skills in digital filmmaking, especially now with animation, is that the look of a film is just absolutely terrific. I mean, we saw it with Inside Out 2, which is also an excellent animation, and with other recent animations. So I was very impressed by it. I really enjoyed it, and it's a film for both young and old, and has some nice messages, I thought, overall as well.
Mm. Now, iRobot, of course, that goes back to
iRobot, yeah,
2004. Okay,
yep.
So Jacqui, you're going to give it a lower score then, presumably, given that you didn't like the last third.
But I guess, I don't know, a lower score than yes.
Yes,
you? Yes, I will.
Certainly, it'll be much lower than me. Okay.
And I would preface it by saying, Alex, if this is going to be one of your top children/family films of the year, I thoroughly recommend that you not miss seeing Runt, which for me, the Australian live-action children/family film, is, far superior. Okay. So, although it's a different kind of film, it's superior. I gave The Wild Robot 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, that's still a very good score. And what about you, Peter?
I agree with you, Jacqui. Runt is definitely worth seeing. It's a very enjoyable Australian film, sort of modelled on Strictly Ballroom, I thought. But anyway, that's another story.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to see that, Peter. Yep. Yes, I see what you mean.
Yeah, with Matt Day over the top eating the scenery. Anyway,
yes.
For Wild Robot, I gave it 8 out of 10.
and I gave it 8.5 out of 10. So, folks, there you go. This has to be on the menu. That's what we're basically saying, because it's an average score of 8 out of 10, which is pretty damn good. So, okay, now, Jacqui, you haven't seen the last film that we're going to discuss today, but do you remember when Spider-Man transposed and went from being a live action bird to...
Lordy, yes, I do.
Oh, you didn't like that, Jacqui?
I did not like it.
Did you like it, Peter?
I did. I thought that animation of Spider-Man was a well-written story with good characters.
Yes, I thought it was amazing. And now what we have alongside one another, you've got the live version of Spider-Man and you've got the animated version. And that's what they seem to be wanting to do with Transformers. That's why we're going to talk about Transformers 1, which, again, to the best of my knowledge, is PG rated and runs for 104 minutes. And boy, there's a lot there. I mean, it's a high-octane adventure with so many twists and turns, extremely well realised. And, you know, it's this sort of untold origin story of sworn enemies. So I think it sits comfortably alongside the pantheon of Transformers movies. I didn't actually look this up. Do either of you know how many Transformers movies there have been? Peter,
I think it was 8, I read somewhere.
Okay, so...
I think it's 3 too many.
I've been let too many, Jacqui.
Yes.
Are you still yearning for more Police Academy movies, Jacqui? Are you?
Good one. I actually quite liked I actually really liked the first couple of Transformer films. I thought they were terrific.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I mean, the difficulty is when they're a license to print money, they keep doing it, and then they go far beyond where they should. I suppose
film has never been a charity, Alex. It's a business.
No, that's fair enough. I suppose James Bond is an interesting one because that's why there are so many years between James Bond movies that you long for the next one. And I don't think... See, I find this fascinating. I don't think James Bond has in any way worn out its welcome. Why has it lasted longer than almost any other franchise I can think of? Do you have an answer, Peter?
It's because of the money and production that goes into the writing and what we see on screen. It's obviously a franchise that works really well, spy films.
Oh, very well indeed. But even like Bourne Identity and Bourne whatever that, you've got 3 or whatever you've got, and then it stops. But James Bond keeps on giving, doesn't it? Anyway, let's go back to Transformers 1. Optimus Prime, you might know that name, is the supreme leader of the heroic Autobots. And Megatron is the diabolical commander of the Decepticons. So you've got Autobots and Decepticons. The pair was once friends, but then the dynamic between them shifted, with the fate of their home planet, which is called Cybertron, in the balance. Cybertron. So the story focuses on this ambitious, adventurous mining bot called Orion Pax, who dreams of a better life than working in the subterranean Icon City. And he never sees the light of day. All his time is spent mining a precious energy source called Energon, supplies of which are dwindling. The original prize have been slaughtered in this war with, and again, all of this is only going to mean something to those people who know the Transformers universe, but in a war with the ruthless Quintessence. How do you pronounce that, Peter? Quintessence, who are now the rulers. And Orion Pax doesn't have any cogs, so he can't actually transform. That's a problem. Therefore, his chances of rising above his lowly station are remote, to say the least. And yet he is driven to succeed, even when the odds are stacked against him. And the tale takes off from there, after he finds a way to travel to the forbidden surface, dragging his mate, D16, with him. And at stake is what's termed the long-lost matrix of leadership. So Orion Pax isn't the most popular bot in the stable. In fact, he's known to be quite a nuisance. He regularly disobeys orders. And yet his unconventional character is what propels him to do what he does. I was really impressed by the heft that the director Josh Cooley managed to imbue into his reboot of the Transformers franchise. It's got emotional resonance. And I mean, let's not forget that Cooley won the Best Animated Feature Oscar for Toy Story 4. So the pedigree is strong. And I thought that was the worst of the Toy Stories, I've got to say, but there you go. Not that it was bad, but the other three were brilliant. In this case, credit must also go to the three writers, right? They've done a great job. Andrew Barrow, Gabrielle Ferrari, and Eric Pearson. And the first two collaborated on Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Pearson is noted for his work on Thor Ragnarok. So it turns out to be a mighty compelling film, I reckon. Transformers 1, at the core of which is a great deal of subterfuge because loyalties are tested. And given how much takes place and at a rapid rate, you do need to concentrate to get the most out of it. But if you do, I think the rewards are there. Animation is outstanding, the computer artistry is next level, and the personalities, again, of the players come to the fore. They give the narrative depth. And it marks yet another winner for somebody you like, Jacqui, Chris Hemsworth, who steps in to voice Orion Pax. There's a sort of relaxed irreverence about him. It's a really fun portrayal, sees the character evolve into a force to be reckoned with. And the nemesis, Orion Pax's antithesis, is his rule-following friend, his brother in arms, who always has his back. That's D16, voiced by Brian Tyree Henry. And while the pair does sometimes rub each other up the wrong way, their bond is still deep. And what I liked about Brian Tyree Henry was the way he transitions D16 in this movie. And also starring in the way of Orion Pax at first is his by-the-book manager, Alita One, vocalised by Scarlett Johansson. Now, at first, she's ready to turn him in for his seeming inability to do the right thing, but in time, she does see another side of him. And Johansson, well, she's really good at what she does. She readily channels annoyance and respect. So it's not only action-driven, it's quite humorous, Transformers 1. Part of that's due to the performance of Keegan-Michael Key as banished bot B127, a.k.a. Bumblebee. Again, if you know Transformers, that's going to mean something. And so it's a cleverly conceived and executed film, left me longing for the next instalment. What about you, Pete?
Not for me, I'm afraid. I was never impressed by the live-action Transformers films, especially because they were a franchise just to promote the toys so that children can go and buy the toys and play around with them.
Nothing wrong with Transformers toys, Peter. It's like the modern Barbie. No, it's not. But there you go.
Now, there's a comparison that I think Jack comment on.
I reckon people are going to be buying Transformers for decades to come. And Barbie's been, how many years has Barbie been around? 65 or something?
I think there's a bit more depth in Barbie than there is in the Transformers characters. Well, they always want to fight one another.
We're talking body image now, Jacqui. Barbie's got an unrealistic body image when she started, 65 years ago. I mean, what do you have to say about that, huh?
Well, she should have taken the substance. Anyway, for me, in 1986, the first Transformers animation was made, and I thought that set the scene reasonably well, but the live-action films don't work for me at all. And this new animation is marginally better than that first animation, and definitely better than the live-action films. But for me, they don't tell an interesting enough story, and I didn't think the writing was that terrific. It was more about confrontation and about loss of ability, loss of consciousness, loss of conscience, loss of a whole range of things that have to be dealt with over a long period of time. Yes, the animation is good. It's a good-looking film, but I didn't think there was much of a story there to begin with, so I'm afraid I'm not a great fan at all.
Score out of 10?
I just gave it 5 out of 10.
And you're not going to believe this, I gave it 8.5. I've had 3 8.5. Oh. I loved it. I thought it was terrific. So, on that note, it has been most enjoyable to have your company, Peter Krause and Jaqui Hammerton, and we will do it all again next week on First on Film and Entertainment. Be kind to one another, don't wolf whistle too much, and be respectful. That is obviously the message of today, and I don't mean that in a twee way at all. I mean it sincerely. Folks, thank you very much, and we will speak to you again very soon.